Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day of Reaper Pro-Tips, whatever this word is, whatever this show is. With me, your host, and disembodied hands, Quindy. Much more useful than my hands today. And her adoring servants, Justin and Sean. Yes. I'll upgrade them someday. I don't know. Hello, everyone. Oh, wait. Did you want to come up here and say hi, Keeks? Keeks? You want to come up here and say hi? Yeah, you can come up and say hi. Do you want to come up and say hi? Yay! And Kiki. Good girl. No, you cannot eat my ear. No. No. You can't eat my collar either, but that's marginally more acceptable. Okay, off there we go. Good girl. No. No, now we're all bitey. We gotta learn to be good and then not bitey. Good girl. Yeah, go chew your stuff. You're a disaster today, me too. Oh, Kiki, no. Go settle. Yeah, get your noms. Yeah, I gave you juice. Yeah, good girl. You're a good girl. She's like, does that mean I can come and nom on you again? All right, Dogly, go settle. All right. Woof. Oh, what a day. Hi there, Keeker. Yeah, you can get pettins, just no noms. Good girl. Good girl. We're teaching the no noms thing, right? Yeah. How is everyone today? It feels like, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like I got sleep, but I also feel like I'm so scattered because today is a disruption day. David's dad is coming, and so we have some people coming to clean our house today, so that is always a disruption because then I have to actually, weirdly, I pre-clean for the cleaners. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I apparently am just a weirdo. And I like to remove, just random loose crap because I don't want them to clean it up and throw it out. I live by sticky notes, right? Sticky notes are imminently throw-outable by people who don't understand that they're important. So, yeah. So essentially this day is going to be shot as far as productivity goes. I get the feeling. Probably right up until they come and I barricade Kiki and I here in my office. And then I'm like, I have no choice but to get work done because I'm in my office. So that's good anyway, but... Oh, good, Agent Marvel. Glad you're getting over it. Yeah, David thinks he's coming down with something because he just went skiing. He just traveled. So that's fraught with cold apparel. Good girl. That's just checking on whenever I hear nomming noises, I just kind of have to check over my shoulder, make sure she's not nomming on, David's slippers. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a hard one. Honestly, crows, yeah. If you have a bank, I have Chase Bank and they offer credit cards, through stuff, and, sometimes you can get deals that way, but I don't know about gas rewards, but hotels, yeah, it's just rough. It's rough. Honestly, yeah, people pre-cleaning. It's true, Agent Marvel, but at the same time, you don't want to leave stuff lying out that's, confidential, or, maybe that, that credit card bill, or credit card, application that's been lying on your counter. You don't want to leave those lying around, there's crap that we leave lying around for ourselves every day that, you don't want to leave out. So I'm I just kind of always do a comb, and I tend to work in a kind of a mess state. It's weird because I'm very organized, but I have a mess state. So I'm at any given time, I'm taking up half of the kitchen/dining room table with my work, between journals, notes, sticky notes, computer, all the rest of it. So I always clean that off because I just don't want to, I'm not going to leave that. I'd rather have them wipe down the whole table. And I think that's maybe the core of it is you're used to living in your own kind of disorder. But then when they come, you actually want them to wipe down everything. And you're like, well, I've got to move my crap so they can wipe down everything, that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of my mental on it. I always am I would really like them to just wipe down this entire counter. So I'm going to move the debris off of it so that they're not tempted to just shift it around or whatever. Or they leave it because they think it's confidential and they shouldn't touch it. Oh, God, yeah, that's weird. Okay, I never would do that. These floors, after the rain and Kiki, I managed to mop a couple times during all that, but they are filthy. Like, this is dirty. This is the dirtiest our house has ever been for the maids. So, like, I'm not going to pre-mop the floor. They can take care of it. They have the awesome equipment. I don't. So, yeah, totally. You see what the rest of Luca's desk looks like. We artists like to live in a state of organized clutter. You may not think it's organized, but usually we can reach out and put our hand on where we last saw something. Except for those times on stream where I'm like, where the heck did I put this color? But yeah, totally. Oh, there's the girl. Good girl. Yeah, we have filthy house, so I hope they're ready for it. And also, I don't know how they're going to clean, like, in her bedtime crate, because it's a pen. It's not a crate anymore. It's not really slidable, so maybe I'll just tell them to, like, vacuum and mop the inside of it and not really move it. But, yeah. But it's funny because it's up against my bedside table, so maybe I'll just tell them not to worry about that corner. But yeah, it's organized for the individual, right? Yeah. For those people, like, there are some people who are some creatives who are extremely organized and live by their organized, like, they need to be organized to work. And I hit that point. Like, I'll hit that point where the clutter is too much, and I'll stop and clean, essentially. But in general, I tend to live in an okay-ish kind of state. Not terrible. Mostly because it does bother me if it gets too cluttered. I figured out a long time ago that if I have too much clutter, it actually impinges on how productive I want to, like, whether I want to paint or not. So, for sure, I had to kind of take care of that and keep an eye on that. Because if I was, like, getting to the point where I really don't feel like painting, and then I realized, oh, it's because I've got all this clutter everywhere. So, even as we speak, in fact, that has prompted me to put away a few things. But I'm keeping out a few things because we need to work on them. Oh, and I wanted to check this out. 1 second. I did an experiment the other day with my wet palette to see if I have the exemplar. A lot of you guys will have this one from ReaperCon if you got the box. It came as one of the things in the cool swag. But I wanted to see if I popped the top. Yeah, the paint stayed a little bit better. Val said that if I've popped the hole at the top, this thing, the paint wouldn't go to water as much. And it didn't quite as much, but some colors like stayed, but I still feel like it'd be hard to use. So all in all, I have to say that not ideal. I don't know. I find, honestly, that my well palette keeps the paint more like I want it than my wet palette does. Maybe that's weird, but it's true. All right, and this color needs to go down where I can find it. There, perfect. Excellent. Now we're in more of a good mode, I think, here. There. Sweet. Filled by random feline. That's true, Kerniko. Yeah, that makes sense, because then you're just, like, at that point, you're just building walls, like anti-cat zones. That makes sense to me. Thankfully, Kiki cannot, is not of a size to actually jump up on my desk. So I do not have to worry about that. So we're back in our necromancer, and she really is. There we go. Let's get in focus. Yeah. So we went very dark, and it looks like she's wearing, a lot of black, and she's got some purpley red, which is great. She's generally we haven't used a single lick of pure black on her, so I feel like actually I'm liking what I'm seeing. I did not paint the back of the boots, which was silly of me. But I can do that later. I said that we were going to work on bone today and the book, and I think I'm going to stick to that. I need to look and see what else I might want to make those colors, but I think that might be just those two things. I could do the skulls on the front of the boots, so we'll see how I like that. So we're going to start real dark for these, along with, because that's what we're doing with this model, right? Oh, that's awful, Crowley. Yeah, there's a nasty cold. I mean, my parents got it when they came back from Mexico. There's nasty stuff going around. David says the flu season is really, like, not even there this year, but that the cold season seems to be all over the place. Oh, and I got revamped cover designs from my cover artist, guys. So maybe later on I'll drag this out. Yeah, because we did my artist was working on them, and she decided the composition was too busy, so she did a mock-up of a simple, like a more clean composition, and it's cool. It's very cool. Actually, it's effective. And apparently she still has, like, she has lots of font choices for me to look over next. Apparently that's the next thing. So I'm definitely getting my money's worth with this cover artist, I gotta say. Like, I don't know if I kind of wonder if the really, really expensive cover artists, like, put you this much personal attention into it, but this one is, like, I feel like I am definitely, like, getting my money's worth for these, for sure. And it's just fun. It's just freaking fun. Whenever I stop and let myself, like, just feel it, it's just like, ee! I made a squee noise, like, when I looked at the new covers, and Kiki was like, whoa, what was that noise? It was really funny. Because she had never heard me make that noise. I'm like, no, that was the excited mommy noise, Kiki. It's okay. It was really funny. All right, get this mixing brush out. I'm going to start with brown liner, but not a pure brown liner. I think I'm going to go, this is what I call the Jennifer Haley tactics with bone. I always loved how Jen did her bone because she usually went really dark with it at the root, and then she brought it up. So I'm going 4 drops of brown liner, and then I'm going to put a drop of the russet brown in it, just to warm it up a little, because I'm going to be using gnawed bone. If you use brown liner and then you go straight to gnawed bone, you risk going a little bit greenish, just because you're going to a very yellow color from a very black color. And so maybe it wouldn't, but I want to kind of keep an eye on that. So 1 second, I just dumped all my pokey tools. Oh, you haven't tested, Carly? I guess that probably, it's like a pain to test now, huh? Or you just didn't care and you just thought you'd get over it, right? A lot of the people I know around here are still like, if they get sick, they kind of test. But I think they must have access to tests easier than most. Pardon me, I was cleaning off my pokey tool because it was very globby. Very globby, very ineffectual. Not very pokey of a pokey tool. Alright, so we're going to slide this back, boop, and get this. My russet brown is getting down to the bottom of the bottle, so it's getting gloopier and gloopier. And that'll happen just because more and more air will be in the bottle naturally, right? It's not like there's a vacuum when you squeeze the paint out. It's air goes in there. So as your paint bottle becomes more depleted, you'll notice it will get gloppier and probably clog more often. This is just like the way of the universe, really. So it's nothing unusual. If you add a little bit more water to the paint at that point, you can somewhat prevent it. Although just the fact that there just is less moisture in there does mean that you may see just clogs more often, just because the paint has a lot more air on either side of it, a lot less of a wet space, a lot less humidity in the bottle to draw from, so it may clog a little bit more. Oh yeah? Maybe not then. Oh, okay. Oh, I see, Carly, I see what you mean. Immune system upset, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, at this point I've dropped sugar out of my diet again, and I'm like, I always feel like there's less inflammation when I do that. I certainly sleep better. It's weird when you change your, like, if you have a Fitbit and you change your diet, like, pay attention to stuff like your sleep score. Like, it does impact things, weirdly. Like, I just have been, like, kind of freaked out sometimes watching my score when I make a change. All right, so now I'm going to take a big drop of this very, very dark paint, and I did add a drop of the russet brown to it just to give it a little bit of mitigation. So I'm going to drop a drop of this in and see kind of what I get, and probably it's going to be a little grayish, but it's not greenish, so that's good. Now I can, if I want to warm it up, I can bring it, well, although that's pretty good. Here, you guys can't see it. Let me get the big black base over here. There you go. So it's kind of a brownish gray, right? So if I want it to be more brown, I can totally bring in the russet brown. Grayish bone tends to be old and rotting, so oh no, Quinty. So I'm kind of like between things. Like I'm kind of like maybe I want to go there. I think I'm going to use that for a base. I think I am going to just bring it up over the top of that gray. I think I'm not going to take it more brown. I have a lot of very muted colors on this model, and so the grayish colors should be fine. But I may want it a little warmer. We'll see. I'll start with this and then see. I can always glaze. That's the thing. If you are not sure how warm or grayed out you want a color, it's not like you can't just glaze. So you can start with the grayed out color, and if you find that you want it to be warmer, you can always glaze over it with that brown. It's doable. Overslept by an hour and a half, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of impossible for me to do that badly. Like David will, because we've got double alarms, because David's goes off at 7 and mine goes off at 7:30. So even if he oversleeps when mine goes off, if he's still in bed, I'm like, oh my gosh, poke, Oh no, Quinty. Oh no. The world is attacking you. The world has turned on you. I'm going to use my Winsor & Newton Series 7 today. Been trying to kind of switch up my brushes a bit. Yeah, I gave Kiki her towel toy filled with frozen pumpkin stuff, and she's like at it, like she's just on it. She's like, this is the best thing ever. Threw myself in editing my book 2 yesterday because I need to have that page count by the time she gets to the point of doing the paperback covers, and yeah, I got through somewhere between 2 and 3 chapters, which is pretty good editing. But today is going to be a lot less productive. I don't know if I'm going to get it done in time, but I want to get it to the point where I can at least guesstimate. And there's a little bit of hair crunch down here that I totally missed. Like there's that little pale part there that actually I think is another hair tie. So I have to I'll bring in a liner down there. I don't know what color I want those hair ties to be, but yeah, it is a hair tie. But I'm going to darken it in. You pretty much paint it in brown liner. And then I can always hit it with a dash of white if I want it to be a color later. I'm going to line around the bookmark, which will probably also be that purpley red, unless I think of an accent color. Oh no, Pernico. Yeah, and broken toes are ridiculous because it's like they make sure it's lined up, right? But other than that, they're just like, yeah, don't step on this. That's really useful. They put you in a cast and they can't really do a whole lot with a toe is what they told me. Eek. Eek, Karenico. Do you have balance issues? Or is it just there's something at the top of the stairs that always trips you up? Yeah, exactly. Strap pillows to her. I agree, Quindy. We need some magical geese that we can send over. Magical geese descend upon you in a flapping flock and strap pillows to you. Roll for initiative. Oh, I see. Yeah, so you have to check, right? Now you have to check for the cat. That has to become an active protocol now. Or I will encourage Quindy to come over and strap pillows to you. The pillows would be somewhat inconvenient, so if I were you, I would institute a Loki protocol right away. I bet though you do, and then, he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He lulls you into a false sense of security. And then when he's like, aha, she has stopped looking for me entirely, he's like, blunk. This reminds me, yeah, see, this reminds me, do you guys ever, watch Robot Chicken back in the day? It was I think, Adult Swim cartoon, kind of thing who's it. But there was just one tiny little skit called Cats Are Jerks. And it's just like, this human coming down the store and this cat right here. And this cat just sticks out its leg and the human goes, ah! And then Cats Are Jerks comes up on the screen. It was pretty, it was funny because it was true. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Take that, human who controls all my food and water. Take that. I love you and all, but... Yeah, much of a pain in the butt as Kiki is. At least she doesn't quite do that to me, that stuff. She's too big, though. I'd see her coming. She went, okay, I have to actually share a Kiki story. So last night we went to the ballpark, and there were dogs there. Yay! And there was even a shy female German Shepherd who decided that Kiki was okay, and they played and raced around and around. But then Kiki got really tired, and she was like, I'm hot, and I don't have a water bowl, because Mommy was dumb and didn't, pre-fill a water bowl. And so she went to the biggest mud puddle she could find and laid in it. It was a huge mud puddle on the ball field next to first base. Yeah, and just laid in it. Just when she stood up, you could just see the mucky water just streaming off her belly. So when we walked home, she got hosed. Because there's no way I was loading her into the bathtub without David, so it was hose time. It was not freezing, so it was hose time. So yeah, Kiki got hosed. I'm going to take this gray and I'm going to put it over these little skulls on the boots. Because I think that'd be... I don't really want to do metal down here. I was thinking more leather applique, maybe painted leather. Or embossed leather, rather. So I'm going to go with the embossed and painted leather for the boots, I think. Yeah, see, the female German Shepherd was totally like that Red Lynx. She was very fastidious. And when Kiki did this, she honestly, I swear that dog stopped and looked at her and went, what is wrong with you? You could just see the look on the shepherd's face, which is very, what? It was really funny. Yeah, some dogs are princess dogs, but apparently Zam is also a mud puddle dog, her mama. So little did I know what I was getting into. Kiri wasn't necessarily some dog that would seek out dirt, but she wouldn't care if she tromped through it. But apparently Kiki is actively. And apparently there is a dog in her pedigree, because our breed founder in her book actually talked about some of the German dogs behind her line. And there was a dog actually in German named Little Mud Puddle Brat. So that is now Kiki's name. Although I don't remember it in German. Meekster, Papa, what you doing? 1 second. She might need to get evicted. 1 second, guys. Hey. No. Nope, you've got a bully here. Don't forget your bully. Yeah? Did you finish that? Did you finish your topple? Did you get some pumpkin on the floor? Now you have to play in it? Yeah? Oh, it's almost gone. Well, yeah. You can still play with it. Just no floor claws, please, dear. No floor claws. Yep. Yeah. And if you don't stop floor clawing, I am going to evict you. So if you don't want to be evicted and you still want to be near Mama, then you gotta be good, okay? Do you want pettings? No? Okay. Go hang out, but no floor paws. Cats are jerks moment. No, I haven't played it. Green users. That's funny, Renly. Oh, you're done. You're done. Oh, you're done. Yep, you did not listen. You did not listen. Go. Yep. Yeah, there you are. I've evicted you and your chew. Yep, go settle. Yep. There we go. All right. Oh, your cats are fascinated by it. Yeah, we're going to take Kiki to the beach, and just based on this, I'm sure she's going to like be all over in the wet sand, and God knows what she's going to look like. So we're going to wait till spring on that one, I think, so that we can really hose her off when we get her home. And thankfully, the inside of my car is rubber. If the element is still with us, fingers crossed. All right, so gray, and then the skull needs to be gray. And we'll go and outline some of the details on the skull with lining, of course. But yeah, I am getting to the point on this model where I do want to cover up all of the bones material so that I can get a better feel for how the model is going to look compositionally. If I can get all that stuff filled in, then I'm going to have a better feeling. Be able to assess it better. Whenever you still got white primer on the figure, or in this case gray bones, you're gonna run into that point where you're like, it throws you off to see the raw material when you're trying to assess your color composition. Like you'll think, oh, I need a light spot there, and then you realize that you're going to do that part in silver, and you know, you don't need that spot after all. I can't tell if that's a band on the skull or just another horn, but I think it might be a band. The skull has jewelry. How's it going, Daffodweir? So this whole rest your hand on top of the figure's head is like why those miniature holders come with the bar that goes up over the top of it. For people like me who keep going, you know, tap, 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 and slowly wearing the paint off. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's not a band. Maybe it's just a horn. I'll paint it and find out. We'll paint it as a horn, and then if it becomes obvious that it is actually jewelry, then I'll go and repaint over the top of it. It's easy enough. Sometimes if you don't know what something is, just move forward with a you know, hypothetical like idea, and if it turns out to be wrong, then just paint over it. Very little stress. I'm working on my Patreon thing today. I do have that on my list. It's going to be the how to mix everything. It's going to be episode 1 skin tones. So I'm probably going to, what I'm going to do is that originally I was going to do a video, but then I thought I am going to be pontificating a lot, so it's probably a better PDF. So we'll be doing a PDF for the first one, but then I think in next month I'll be doing a video that then applies what I essentially laid forth in the PDF. So hopefully that gives people enough, both those who like to learn one way and the other, that will give them enough understanding. All right, let's get this liner black in the eye sockets. These are eye sockets where it would be very hard to make them glow. If you wanted to make the eyes of the skull glowing, what I would advise you do is take some putty and mostly fill in the eye sockets so that the bottom of the eye socket is actually right up next to the surface, and that way you can put white in there and it'll show up. If you try to fill an eye socket with white but the eye socket is really deep, it's never going to give you really that good glowing effect. So it's much easier to do a glowing effect on something that's flush and not terribly recessed, like this dude. His mask is really, you know, stands out, so I'm going to be able to do a glowing effect on that really easily. Because even the leaves above his forehead are not cut too deeply, so I can get away with it. And if it does seem to be problematic, then I can take those leaves and kind of fill them in a little with some putty. Yes, and there is my stuff. My stuff is patreon.com/paintingbig. Yay, Patreon. I love my Patreon. It's a lot of work, but it's cool. It keeps me alive and keeps me from having to get, like, you know, a real job. Although I would argue that David knows how hard I work. Ask him sometime, but he'll tell you that I work a lot. I am always working. So even if some people would not label it a quote unquote real job, it's very real. It's a lot of work. Even though being a freelancer often means you get to work on the projects that you love, it is still work. So we're going to black in these, or aligner in these eye sockets here. I'm not going to see a lot of detail until we start highlighting everything, but I'm still going to put in some shadows. Very careful not to paint over her fingers. There's a lot of stuff I do on this show that really does come down a lot to brush control, to getting brush control and developing it, or regaining it if you've lost it. And repetition and actually, like, doing it is the best practice, doing it over and over and over. So practicing your brush control is really the key to get better. I'm going to thin down this liner a little bit and put kind of a spot wash over the teeth. Maybe a little bit more paint in there. That's kind of what I felt for a long time, Cornico, except Reaper. Reaper was a real job and it wasn't rubbish. Although some people would tell me Reaper wasn't a real job, just because apparently if you enjoy your job, it's not a real job, which is BS. But yeah. But being self-employed is cool and awesome and a lot of work. When I first tried it, I didn't understand how much work it was. That was why I failed at it. And then when I came back to it, I was like, all right, I understand this now. I have to bust my butt. And I'm doing much better with it this time around. Let me see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this series on mixing. It's not really as hard as you think once you get the concepts in your head. So a little bit of shadow there to bring those out. Hey, Shadow Raven. It's cool. Yay, firewood. I like fires. We have a real fireplace, but we've passed on lighting it this winter because I really want to get a chimney inspector out before we do that. I have no idea what our chimney looks like, and considering how many rodents and you know, just vermin we have in this neighborhood, it wouldn't surprise me if something had built a nest in it. So I really want to make sure our chimney is clear before we light a fire in it. We just haven't gotten around to it. It hasn't been a priority. So no fires for me this year. Maybe next year. Maybe next year I'll take the initiative and call somebody and get somebody in to look at it. But yeah, lining is one of the best ways to get brush control. It also teaches you paint consistency, because if your paint's not coming off your brush, then it needs to be thinner, usually, or you need to use a slightly bigger brush, depending. There we go. We got everything lined now. You can see the segments on the skull. The book has got its thing going on. I'm going to put just a little bit of line, just darken down the cover a little bit. on the edge there. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured that probably it hadn't been cleaned or inspected in ages. There are only, to be fair, there's only like a short period each year here in this area where it's cold enough that you'd want to fire. Okay. I might, I don't know, I'm thinking about like a possible possible additional color for this. So all right, let's do it. I'm thinking about like putting an accent color in and what I would choose. I do have those potion vials there and the tongue of the bookmark and a little gemstone down here. So I have an area or two that I could do it, but let's do some color theory. I'm going to think about it, but I want to see the color wheel and then think about it while I paint this bone. So what we have right now is we have a red violet for sure, right? And then her dress is also a red, so we're pretty much in split complementary land. So split complementary is going to be dealing with these guys, right? So we got red, violet. Let's turn it so that we've got our things here, because we got a really dark red. And this is one of the ways to make a split complementary scheme work, is to make sure that one of the colors is very dark. So our dress is red, really, really dark red, but we are bringing it up with a red. Very, very, very slight red. It's like that, what's that cloth that looks like black, but it only hits like the very highlights shine with a red? I don't remember. It's like, it's weird. It's a weird kind of satiny cloth, very stiff. But anyway, so we've got that. And then we've got this red violet on the interior of her dress and in her hair. So we've definitely got these two. And then I've got technically, actually, okay, our split complementary is not over there. It's over here. Here. Because we've got our blue violet, right? Because that's the black indigo that I used for her boots, and it's for the raven. So, okay, so right now we've got the beginning part of a split complementary. And isolating that automatically tells me what my accent color is. It means that if I want an accent color on this, I've got to go yellow-green or something similar. I could go with a warmer green. I could go with a greenish yellow. But if I were to do the split complementary scheme, that's where I would be. Because that's what my little, if you see the split complementary little arrow here, it goes pretty much these guys and that. So that is something I'll have to think about. Probably the best way to get a green yellow in here is not actually going to be to use a straight up green yellow at all. And this is where you go over here and you're like, okay, green yellow. If I add red to the green yellow, you know, I could make it shift that way toward a brown, yellow, blue. I could go a little bit more teal with it, or I could go more with an olivey green, with kind of an olive green, by adding black. So the olive green has potential, right? Because we've got a lot of muted colors on here. We've got some little pops of more bright colors, but in general, she's going to be pretty muted. So a muted yellow-green really is an olive. It's a military green or an olive. So I'll have to think about how I want to do that, or if I want to do that, because the danger in that now is that that will be a very warm color on the piece, and it will be very distracting. So I'll have to think on that and see if I want to do it. because there are very few places I can put that color, and I'm going to have to like really de-emphasize them to make it work. Just so little, yeah, there's just so few places to put it. So we'll have to think about that. We'll have to think about that. Yeah, red violet, yeah, it's more of a yellowy green. Yep. So we'll see. If you don't like that idea, then don't do the color scheme. But I'm probably going to experiment and see if I can get it to work or look good, and see. Technically, all the places I could put it are so tiny that I could use a brighter color. All right, so now we're going to go with our Nod Bone, 4 drops of it, which is a much warmer color than we've used so far. And we're going to put just a little bit of our previous grayish color into it. So let me get my mixing brush to mess around with that. Also, I feel like I need to drop some water into that because it's definitely drying out. There wasn't much of it to begin with. And then we'll go in here. So now I've got a grayed out bone color, but it is much warmer than the previous color, and it is lighter than the previous color. So we'll come up to that. And remember, since I have the color wheel here, we may as well do a value on it. It's easy to do value on grays because, you know, we're working with grays. I can look at that gray right there and say it's probably a value 6 or 5. So you kind of take your grayscale and you kind of put it over. Oh, it's darker than that. It's not a 6. You put your little edge over the little edge and you kind of see where it really falls away. Now here, I feel like you guys are here, maybe a little bit. I feel like on camera it's reading like more of a 4. Yeah, it's actually all the way down at a 4. This is. So if I put my little grayscale edge over there, you see how it just kind of disappears, whereas here you can see that the 5 is lighter. And if you go to the 6, or to the 3, you see that it's much darker. So it's a solid 4 here. And then if we look at this one, then we want it to be usually 2 levels above. If it's more than 2 levels above, that's light. That's about right. So it's 6. So okay, so it's exactly 2 levels. You want 1.5 to 2 levels usually between your highlight and your next color down. So you could go up in 1.5 to 2 step intervals. So we pretty much have a perfect 2 step interval here. If you find that it's still too light, especially if you're mixing in colors with white in them, which is Nod Bone does have white in it, then we definitely want to add another drop of water. But if your color is like maybe only 1.5 steps away, you maybe don't have to thin it as much to make it blend in and look good. Alrighty, so let's actually get some detail on this skull. Let's test our paint and see how thin it is. Oh, it's actually showing up pretty well. Alright, so you can see that really brought up the brow ridge. Now I've got some of my previous color, which is good if I want to blend in a bit more. I can always grab a little bit of my previous color and add it in. So I'm going to grab my Nod Bone mix and just pretty much start. This guy's got like kind of a bump on his, I don't know if that's an artifact from the mold or what, or if the skull is meant to be a little lumpy. So we'll just go with it for now. So we've got the brow ridge, and the top of the head is coming in. And there's part of the skull that starts to flare out into the... Yeah, you could definitely, there's two pieces on either side here. They kind of look more like they're bands of gold or something than bone. And I don't know if that's just a relic of the sculpting. I think it's, I'm going to paint them as bone still. But they really could be painted as bands around the horns here as well. So we'll start to lighten up our bone. Okay, so nice tight if you want to. Hey, George Hintz, thank you for the resub. 42 months. Wow. You've been listening to Reaper stuff for a very long time. Almost as long as I've been doing this stream at my Patreon. That's definitely a long time. So I'm dabbing in a little bit of the previous color just to blend in some stuff. I could glaze with it, or I can do a little bit of spot wet blending if I have a very tiny brush. Yeah, let's get the eye sockets. There we go. So now we're getting some idea of the expression. As we bring in these highlights, we can finally see the features. Get the area above his teeth. There we go. A little bit under the teeth, and then we'll do the teeth proper. Oh, I also haven't done this horn. I probably should do this horn. Yeah, 42 months is a long time. Can't even imagine where I'm going to be in 42 months. I mean, I'm going to be here, but with the rest of my life and stuff. It's always exciting to be trying something new. I really like trying new things. For me. So basic highlight. See a point where I kind of didn't line on the underside here, so I'm going to come in and do it. And the skull is starting to stand out a little bit more here. Got to get his little teeth. The teeth are tiny. Sometimes I feel like I need to upgrade my reading glasses these days for some of this stuff. Because it's, with the 3D sculpting, the sculptor can get really fine because they can blow it up, right? They can blow up the model to a very large size and do these little fine little needle teeth. But then when you're trying to see it, I feel like I need a 4 times reading glasses. Maybe I need to like just give in and get the optimizer at that point. When my brush control is better than my eyes, right? It's just sad. And this paint that I'm doing the skull with right now, the highlight color, is definitely too strong, I'd say, for the top of the book. So I will have to thin it a little bit more. It's getting there. The teeth are in there somewhat, so I'm okay. I need a little bit more highlight there. Oh yeah, I feel like there are definitely like there's little kind of points above the eye, like just little nodules. So I'm gonna kind of paint it around those. So I'm gonna bring them back in a little bit, bring dark over the top so I can highlight them. There actually are points on either side, like little studs above each eye. I'm going to thin a little bit more before I there we go, 2 little points above the eyes. So I'm going to grab a bunch of my highlight here, 2 brush holes. I'm going to grab a brush full of water. I'm going to thin it down a bit in a new well. I could use just a little bit more of a firm solid layer of this color, so I'm going to put that over the top there. And I pretty much do the whole page in parchment highlight. But then we've done several books on this series, so we will come back in and discolor the edges of the pages and stuff. But the beginning is to bring it up first and then you start weathering it. Which may seem like a waste of time, but it gives, in my opinion, the best effect. So it's much thinner now. It's much easier to disguise the brush strokes. Especially if I let that dry and then I come at it from like an up and down direction. That's a way you can do it. Essentially, it's cross-hatching with layering. But it can help to fade in any brush marks you still have. And because it's such thin paint, it tends to dry very fast. So I'm using thinner paint to get these big pages blocked in, but I will go back to thicker paint to do the edges here of the deckled edge, to do the edge pages, because you need more control and you need the paint to be stronger there. If you try to highlight those when you've got this thin paint, they won't even show up. So that's coming up now. So I'm going to go back to my thicker paint, which is why I took, because I knew this, that's why I just transferred some of this over and added water to it. So now I still have this thick version to work with on the side of the book. And also down here on the boots. This is why I like the well palette, because I can just separate these out and make, you know, 2 different puddles of the color at different consistencies, and they'll stay that way. I continually run into frustration on the wet palette with the paint changing consistency. I can adapt to it. It just makes me have a moment where I'm just like, grr. So even though some of the best painters in the world use the wet palette, most of them probably nowadays, don't let yourself think that you have to do that. If it doesn't suit you and you enjoy using the well better, then use the well. If you want to use a combo, use a combo. And a lot of people, I think, use a combo. Kirill uses a combo. So just a little bit of highlight there on the edge just to bring out the texture. We'll go back over it with a lighter color as we move up, but we're just starting it out here. Probably one of the big mistakes I see, or one of the big kind of jarring things I see, is that like painters will shade, they'll pay attention nicely with blending to the top of the book, but then when it comes to the side pages, they just like take their highlight color and just like draw it on. If you pay attention to your layering, even if it's just really subtle like this, like if I just end up taking out a lighter color and just hitting the middle of each of these pages, just so there's some variation, it does tend to look nicer. A lot of observers wouldn't notice it, but any judge, if you're going to enter a competition, will probably notice it and say it's a shame they didn't do more with this. It's only a little bit of work. But for now, we're taking our first real highlight and just bringing out that texture so we can see the pages. I'm using very little paint on my brush, so it's not going down into the holes. Here I did not darken the outer edge enough, so I need to paint it over dark. So that I can highlight it nicely. There we go. We'll let that dry for a sec. Everybody's quiet today. Yeah. Yeah, and then you fan it and you can see the picture come to kind of build on itself, yeah. Yep. It's a cool thing. I'm sure that there were some very fancy historical books that was done to, and that's where it kind of came from, but along with the optical illusion ones. Some very fancy stuff done with modern, like, book embellishment and bookbinding. You are actually painting Krennico. That's funny. You are cool. It is all good. Arguing with a Scorpio for nearly 3 hours, do not recommend. And what are you, Quindy? If they are a Scorpio. There's some stretches you could try to do too, Shadow Raven. For headache. You're a Leo. Oh no. I'm a Leo ascendant and a Scorpio moon, so I argue with myself all the time. Quindy's in the wrong area for a scorpion. I think all the scorpions would drown if they lived there. Oh, yeah, yep. I used to do astrology for people in college. It was one of the fun things I got into along with reading tarot cards. Just made me very popular at parties. Everybody wanted me to do their astrology. But I like the tarot cards better, so I stuck more with that. Hey, Roger. Alright, just bringing up another layer of that highlight just to get a nice kind of, blend, kind of mottled look to the page. They can do it somewhere else, Wendy. If you feel inclined to. I mean, it's cool, Shadow Raven. It's cool iconography with the tarot. I found it easier to start with the basic Rider-Waite deck, which is kind of the forerunner of all tarot that we know. It's the classic. Just because there are pictures on every card, and it helps you in remembering what the meanings are. Some tarot cards decks only have like 8 staves on the 8 of staves, and that makes it very, very hard to memorize meanings. But if you know the original iconography, then it's easier to remember. The Inuit code, 38 months. Pretty cool. Apparently David Attenborough has been hired by the Scorpion community for positive press PR, huh? And I like to concentrate more on the inside, and then if there's a little bit of a page curl here, I do leave that shadow in there. I find that I like it, but you certainly don't have to. And often we'll get, oh, it's only Major Arcana? Yeah. So it's definitely a different tarot deck. So yeah. I mean, they'll still have the same, they probably still have close to the same meanings, but much easier than memorizing all of the cards, all of the suit cards. A little bit too dark here. Gonna blend it in a little bit. Okay, so now it's time, after all that, oh wait, I need to do the boots. I was going to say, now it's time to go to another level of highlight, but we're not there yet. So already we can see that the book, the skull, the face, and the legs are going to be the main light, and chest. There's a bit of chest, but we'll kind of count that up here with the face. So we'll have lighter things kind of in a diamond shape, so that's cool. And then the jewelry will kind of go dark and then go light. It'll probably be silver, and then I'll pop it with some highlights, but it'll be a lot less solid looking than it is now. Platypus teal. Most random paint name ever. Yeah, I doubt I would have done that. I doubt I would have done that color name. Unless I really, really found a teal platypus. Then maybe. Hey, Corsair. Reaper just put out a bunch of nonsensical paint names. Just like for one ReaperCon, have the paint colors that absolutely make no sense. That'd be kind of fun, actually. I would have gone for that. I'm going to thin this 2:1. We're using straight up gnawed bone. I will come back and do the boots, though. Do we get a twitchy twitch? I'm not seeing anything. No alerts on my end. So this is very, very warm. I'm going to show you guys in a second. Very, very warm. So I probably am going to put just a touch of the previous color in. Dragged for a second. Twitch. Okay, so this is a very warm color, gnawed bone, next to everything else. And so if I really want it to be a little bit more, I'll take a bit of the previous color and just knock it down just a little. So just dim it just a little bit so it's a little more inclined. Yeah, you know, something like that. Assuming Angry Old Men are purple, like, yeah, that could work, you know. Although Angry Old Man orange might be better. Let's see, what do I want? I want... Oh yeah, I was going to say color wheel. So since we're doing our grayscale, let's do our grayscale. So we already know that our previous color had gone up to a 6. That the 6 was the correct, or was it? No, it's looking at a 7. Probably has a float on it. It was looking like a 6 when we were testing it before. I'll back up because if you look too close. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's between those colors. So then we want to see what our new color is. We got to put this over the edge. Really looks like that is it. Actually, it's an 8. So we had a 4, a 6, and an 8. No, we want it to not make sense, Corsair. Gratuitous violet. That's good. I like that. Yeah, those make sense, though. Like, I was thinking of color names that didn't make sense at all. I like gratuitous violet. So yeah, so we've got essentially a 4, a 6, and an 8. So those are 2 steps of light and dark, each color, which means that's a good range. If you see further, like if you see 2.5 to 3 steps, you probably either want to do a half and half mix, or you want to thin it more. Yeah, Existential Dread Pink. That sounds great. I like that one, Shadow Raven. Sadly, I'm not in a position to actually create these colors anymore. I would. I had just actually dreamed of mixing paint last night, by the way. I dreamed that somebody had sent us a weird batch of, like, we thought it looked like mummy brown, and it didn't, like there was no way it could have mummies in it, but we were thinking it had a dead person in it anyway, and it was, we were debating whether to bottle it under a Reaper label or a generic label, and what we wanted to use it for, because we were never making it again because we weren't going to put a dead person in our paint. It was a weird dream. Let's just put it that way. It was a very weird dream. I gotta get the little lower jaws here, and the little upper jaws, and a bit above the nose. Yeah, I like that. I like doing the leather embossment in bone. That makes sense, though. We're trying. I liked the. Not looking for pun names, more looking for just like wonky, out of phase names. Like the platypus color, that's perfect. Because platypi are kind of funny anyway. little skulls. Could also do the ring around the skull, or I could leave that to be another color, but we'll do the ring and see how it looks. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Hi, Kerniko. No, the paint had arrived, and it was like a big quest or something, Corsair. And like somebody had just left us this batch of paint, and like we wanted to use it because we liked the person or something, but we didn't want to throw it out, but we thought it had dead people in it, or a dead person in it, so. That's all I'm saying. Like, dreams don't make sense. We all know this. But it was funny, and it was the first paint mixing dream I've had since I left Reaper. At least that I remember. No. I was no doubt drawing from, I don't know if it even draws from that meme, because that meme isn't one of my memes. You know how when you know what a meme is, but you never really like directly like experience that meme, it's just not one of your memes. That's what the Soylent Green meme is for me. It never really had an impact on my brain. Yes, exactly. Putting it in a safe place. Yes, you put it away where it's supposed to be, or you put it in a safe place that you surely would remember. Yes, exactly. I do that all the time. Mostly with miniatures projects. What are you doing, Licky Dog? Or are you licking your... Okay, you're licking your pumpkin, frozen pumpkin again. Good. She's like such a lazy dog sometimes. Like if I give her one of her frozen pumpkin treats where she has to lick it out of the toy, like if she's hungry, she'll really, she'll be persistent at it. But otherwise she's so lazy that she will lick the top out because that's easy. But when she encounters the part that's stuck in the fins, she'll wait and she'll let it melt partially and then she'll lick it out because it's easier. She's ridiculous. And then she'll stop when it gets too frozen again. Just a ridiculous dog. I think it's a demon skull, Corsair. It seems like a demon skull because it's maybe it's an imp or a quasit or something that's not a terribly big demon, although it does seem like a human-sized demon. But it's got the curling ram's horns and it's definitely got a demonic face and a mouth full of teeth, so that's my guess. Now I just want to get the bone color onto these little skulls. That was me with reading glasses, Kerniko. Because I use my reading glasses for knitting, and I use them when I run into a little label that I need to read, and I use them for miniatures, which I do in 2 rooms in the house, and yeah, you name it. So I actually bought a total of 6 pairs now, 1 for each room and an extra. And one in my purse, of course, for when I'm out and I have to shop and I have to read a food label to find out if there's evil tomato in it, and then I have to, the food label's too tiny, which is very normal, because I swear they print those things so you're really not intended to read them. So the first thing I do when I'm looking for my reading glasses is I go like this, because I habitually tuck one arm into my shirt. So I was just talking to somebody yesterday, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go to Adepticon because Kiki is still too much of a handful. She could be a much better dog in 2 months, but I don't think I can depend on it. And I really don't want to hand her off to a pup sitter. Like, I want to find a good pup sitter who really likes her and who she really likes. So I don't want to hand her off to a pup sitter who I feel is kind of cool and then, like, have the pup sitter go, oh my god, this is the worst dog ever and I never want to sit for her again. So, kind of feeling like Adepticon is going to be a miss this year, which is probably fine because I really, although I have, like, ideas for Golden Demon, I really haven't done anything. And my focus is so much on getting my book published that I doubt I'll actually be able to spend the energy. I don't care how she eats it as long as it keeps her busy when I can't pay attention to her, Shadow Raven. But I think she's just kind of funny. She figured out that if she waits, it'll be easier. Alright, so now I'm going to take my bright bone color and I am going to do little touches of it just on the top, like wherever it makes sense on these little skulls on the boots. Kuroniko, you really do need to have like pillows wrapped around you, don't you? I start to see why Quindy is of that opinion. I begin to understand. Use marshmallows on her hands. Then she's going to have cats stuck to her hands because the cats are going to like learn that marshmallows are tasty. Or she's going to pet them and the marshmallows are going to stick to the cats. I don't know if marshmallows are the answer. Like, I just see that was fraught with peril. Oh, too much, too much. Too much paint. Hey, the cats probably wouldn't mind. Especially if she's not permitted to pick up knives. I guess that they're pretty safe. Alright, so just little touches to pick up the bone detail on the boots, and we'll see if I still like it later or if I feel like I've gone too much. Once again, I'm not going over everything with the highlight, it's just little touches here and there, so that there's some variation, it's not just one flat color on top of those skulls on her boots. Oh, you didn't need vegan. Yeah, you'd need vegan marshmallows. So we'd have to stick vegan marshmallows to her hands. You have animal goo? Oh, gelatin. Yeah, right. Marshmallow is made with gelatin. Traditional marshmallow. All right, now we're ready to tackle more of the book, and then we'll finish with Skull. If we get time. I think I'm probably, again, going to have to thin this. To do the pages, the top pages, I'm going to have to thin this color. So I'm going to grab a couple brushfuls of it and put another brushful of water in it. Brushful of water typically equates to drop of water. So depending on what you're doing, they are pretty equivalent, assuming you're using a moderately sized brush and not a tiny one. Kuroniko. Yeah, you better not, or we will send the attack geese with the pillows. I'm just envisioning a flock of geese carrying pillows winging across the Atlantic. And radar towers going, oh, fighter jets going, oh. So just a little bit, bringing up that highlight toward the center. Yeah, who's gonna like help me with my knitting problems if you're not here, Pernigo? Because like Black Rose doesn't always talk in chat. Like you're really my go-to like bestie for knitting. I haven't started my snood yet. I have to do a swatch first to judge the gauge. I have had it drilled into me by my latest and other knitting books that I must do a test swatch before beginning a project that I intend to wear. Scarves are one thing. You just need to make it long and wrap it around yourself. It doesn't matter so much how wide it is. But other actual apparel garments must be swatched, I am told, so I must find time to do a swatch. No, actually I like my current scarf. I did my previous scarf. It's fairly long. Actually, it's just about perfect. I can wrap it twice around myself and still have the ends hang down nicely for keep it tucked in. But my second scarf is more fancy, so with the pretty color changing yarn. But then that'll be pretty much like, I think that'll be enough scarves for me. Although scarves are nice gifts too sometimes for people, so I don't mind getting extra practice in on scarves. I hope to someday be a good enough knitter that I can knit stuff for people and they'll be happy. So just a little bit more, just slowly just bringing up that nice page color. I don't want it to be too warm or it's going to distract. Everything else on this mini is so very cold. We've got a very cold temperature model here, which we haven't done for a long time, so this is a good experiment. But that means I don't want to get too yellow too much because that will distract the eye for sure. So keeping this a bit grayed out is a good idea. You know, yeah, but I'm thinking if I don't do a swatch, maybe, you know, once I've been knitting for a while, maybe I'll have a better idea of how my tension compares, right? As far as how loose or tight my stitches are, Kerniko. But since I'm a newbie, I feel like doing a couple swatches would probably be instructive just to tell me if I'm making something too big, too little, you know? Yes. If I ever get over to Scotland, we should meet up, Kerniko. I do want to get back over there. I'd like to go over with David. Crosshair, actually, I talked about that earlier and why you would not ever do glowing eyes on this skull unless you were willing to fill in the eye sockets. When you've got eye sockets that are sculpted this deep, it's pretty... you can't really do a realistic glowing effect on them. You really need to fill them in almost all the way so that you can see the bottoms of them just normally. And once they're more flat to the skull, then you can paint them white and have them actually look like they're glowing. But while there is a actual shadow, a deep shadow in the eye socket, it's never going to look right. So this is not the right model, or I would have to spend time filling in the eye sockets. So if I go up another highlight here, I will just add white to my mix instead of trying to bring the color up warmer. I'm using the edge of my brush here to catch that outside edge of the book as well. It makes it much easier to get that hard edge. That's the point of my stream, Corsair. I've talked about that a little bit in various other projects, but yeah, if you weren't watching those particular streams, you would not have known that, but yeah. That's why doing a glow inside a dragon's mouth is also extremely problematic unless the dragon is like really roaring and there's no shadow, like if it's got its head kind of like this, then you could do it. But wherever there's a realistic and hard shadow being cast into the area, it just never looks right. You can paint the mouth white all you want, it's still not going to look like it's glowing. So you have to really pick your battles or use actual LEDs for those projects, or you know, if it's eye sockets, you can usually fill them in enough that you can dispense with the hard shadow. So now I'm just going to highlight, I'm not going to highlight the whole page here. I'm just going to try to do like the middle. Could also just try to do the edges if I wanted to, but I don't want to go too far. Got a little bit on the book there, so I brought in some water. Yeah, it's like, it's very common for people to ask me if I'll make something glowing on the stream, and I always will stop and explain why it's not a good project for that. In reality, if you want to do an OSL effect, you should choose a product very specifically for that, a model very specifically for that. Because some models will be much easier to do it on than others. I'm going to do it toward the corner here. But yeah, you're creating an illusion with OSL, so you need to make sure that you can set yourself up to succeed with that illusion. I mean, it would still look a little weird just to have the spectacles. Like if I was going to do that Agent Marvel, I would honestly make like a rune or a sigil on top of the skull and have like lines of power tracing into the eyes then. Otherwise it just looks like you painted purple around the eye sockets and we're like, what? Why? You know? So it is a bit of storytelling where you have to kind of figure out, okay, I want this to be a thing, but how can I tell the story that there's magic here? And if you did a rune and you did it that way, then yeah, you could do it. But it's hard to just like, you just have the eye sockets just kind of like radiating magic, but the eyes are dead, you know, dark. It's I don't know. You could do it, but if it would look cool, don't know. You'd have to try. The other thing to remember is that if you're going to do that sort of thing, you are like drawing attention to this. Right now, this is really, this is really a focal point here. So like you do want attention to stay on her more than on the skull. You don't want all the attention on the skull. So you got to think then about balancing. If you did that glowing color over here, you'd probably want to do more of it on the book. You might want to do some of it on her dress. You want to have the eye travel around the figure. Okay, let's see here, skull time. And we're actually about time to stop. So I think I'm actually not going to if I get into the skull, I'm going to keep going for another 10 or 15. But do you guys want to, as a little fun end thing, do you guys want to see the book cover revision for my books? I have pictures. I have pictures. Oh no, phone, are you dead? Oh, there you go. Boop. Let's see here. Pictures, yes. If the skull was facing her, yeah, Richard, I think it would. Like if the skull was facing her and you were doing then the glowing, like even if it was a bigger model, if it was a bust, you could even do glowing tattoos around her eyes and glowing tattoos around the skulls, and that would be awesome. Since she's so tiny, that's not really an option, but you could definitely, yeah, if you did glow around the skull and maybe a rune on top of its head and you could echo that rune in the book, then it becomes like she's trying to cast Speak with Dead, right? Or something like that, and that would be cool. So yeah, for sure. That would be neat. Hold on. I gotta tell you guys, tomorrow, before I show my book covers, tomorrow is Fishy! We're back on Fishy! And we pretty much have a lot of the copper done now. Like, yeah, just the cage I think is left. We might work a little bit more on some of these pouches and stuff tomorrow, or I don't know. Well, maybe we'll go around. Maybe we'll do his staff or something. Okay. So she's switched it around. She didn't like how busy the cover looked. So book cover number 1 is here. So now we've popped the sun down here. It used to be up there. Everything is moved up. And she still hasn't started any of the painting yet. So this is still just like Photoshop stuff being thrown together. We're just trying to look at composition right now. And she's experimenting with different fonts that she's going to share with me. And then the next one, the sequel, is still feeling much colder. She's changed the fox around. She's put the moon on the bottom. And yeah, so now everything, she's going to be starting painting now. So she's going to integrate more, get everything more realistic on the animals. And she's going to, at the end, she's going to do a dark line around the animals and the main characters to make it blend in more with the mythical backdrop. But yeah, I'm very happy with them. Yeah, they make me happy, Corsair. Yeah. So yeah, so it's a fairy tale adventure. So obviously, I think it hits genre pretty well. So yeah, I think I really love them too, Korniko. Very happy. So yeah, so these are going, like it's real. It feels real now. Like when you write a book, you know, and you do the book and you're like, oh, la, and then you see a cover, you're like, whoa, it's real, it's real. I'm going to flip, guys. I am going to flip when I can actually order the book and hold it in my hand. Like that is going to make me flip. I've dreamed of being published for so long, ever since I was a tiny little child. Probably 8 or 9 years old was when I figured out I wanted to write books at some day. So, and I've been working at it ever since. So it's cool. Good, Shadow Raven, good. Yeah, for anybody who reads the genre, if you like them, then, you know, because it's young adult fantasy, right? And it's epic fairy tale kind of feel. So I'm very happy. I'm glad you guys like them. That you guys are kind of my test audience, right? Because a lot of you I know read that genre or read fantasy. And some of you really like fairy tale fantasy too. So if you think they're really cool and it would make you pick up the book and read the back, then that's the point right there. That's what we want. But who's going to sculpt the miniatures line? Right, Richard, right. We're not getting there yet. There are some. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see characters. I could see definitely characters in busts, maybe. And there's one image in toward the end of, like, the finale of the last book. I'm not even going to share it because I don't want a spoiler. But I love the image, and I want a miniature of it so bad. So, yeah. So maybe Jim will ask me. You like the classics and YA fantasy. Yeah, the books feel very fairy tale. They feel very fairy tale. Okay, cool. I agree. Get Julie to do it. Get Julie to do my sculpts. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Let's get at least 3 books out first, guys. At least 3 books. Yeah, that's true. Andy would do a great Ren and Valaman. He would do the great characters for those. I might, because I really like authors who do that, Lady Nim. So if I saw my book in a store, and I am going to go into expanded distribution, but then bookstores these days, like if you're not like a really big publisher and they're not pushing you, it's harder to see yourself in stores. But I'm going to at least make it available, so it'll be in Ingram's catalog, so libraries will be able to order it, bookstores will be able to order it. Yes, you guys can all start. I have. Yeah, there's bears, there's foxes, there's giant dogs. There's later books there are wolves, there are sphinxes, there are dragons. So yeah, there's a lot of Julie fodder there, I think. Yeah, well, you can always, the thing is, Lady Nim, if you want to order one and you have a local bookstore, once I'm in the Igram's catalog, you can ask them to order it and it will be in the catalog they can reach. And I am going to price it, the paperback, so that they can, you know, this is the weird thing about pricing a paperback, is that you can't just price it like it's like, okay, if I charge this much and add $2, then I'll make $2. But you can't really think that way, because then a bookstore can't make any money off of your book. So you have to price it just a little bit more so that the bookstore can still make their margin. You know, it's like distribution in game stores too, the same model. So yes, you could totally order it. You can totally just ask them to get it in. And that's a pretty good thing, because if they get it in and one of the employees like looks at it and thinks it looks cool and reads it and likes it, then maybe they'll keep it in the store. Like, books, it's word of mouth, guys. It's totally, like, it's so word of mouth is still the single best way to get your book in people's hands. Absolutely. Yeah, I have always loved magical animal stories. So I am, and because it's fairy tales, yeah, it is. There's a lot. It's the Beast Kings and the Bear Kings and all the others, and there are fae. There are fae, although we don't go into them so much in these two books. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. It's like we have a version, a slightly different version of our world, like a secondary world kind of version of our normal world back in the early 1800s. But then there's, next to it, there lies a world of magic, which is all about like the stories that people tell and all of the main worlds. So there's like a secondary world next to that. So yeah. Knitting cat named Cerniko with a Scottish accent. I don't know. That might be a one-off book, Corsair. We'll see if that... that sounds more like a modern... Like, I am going to do some... I do have a concept for one book that takes this world and puts it into the modern day, that advances it, and takes one of the characters that's still around and puts her in the modern world. So, you know, maybe I can introduce the Cerniko knitting cat as a secondary character then. Steampunk cats. I'm sure somebody's already done steampunk cats, guys. I'm so sure. I am so sure. Maybe even steampunk cats with knitting. Like, somewhere you'll be able to find it. That's not my book, but yeah. Yes, Stardust. This book feels like Stardust. Exactly. On the nose, Cerniko. In fact, if I had to pick a comp title that feels the most like this book, it would be Stardust. And then there are elements of, like, the adventure feels a lot like Watership, or not Watership, but the Redwall series, like the adventures that the characters have. It has that grand adventure feel. And other books, like Deerskin by Robin McKinley, is like a retelling of the Catskin fairy tale, but it's very much set in its own fantasy world that's based on that fairy tale, and that's a lot. That also is a book that this is strongly that kind of thing. But yeah. That's you've nailed it. Yes, if I have a comp title, if I have one comp title in all the world, it's Stardust. Yeah. Yeah. So cool. But I love Neil Gaiman, but I especially love, like, I love Neverwhere and I love Stardust and I like his Sandman stuff, like, but Neil just does such a great job with legends, stories and legends. So yeah, I'll stop talking. But anyway, tomorrow is Fisha. Fisha's getting perilously close to done. Perilously close. Pretty soon we're going to have to figure out... And this is where I'm almost, like, kind of annoyed at the genera basing. Like, I really probably need to put Fisha on something else. I probably could... Maybe... I don't know. He really needs to be on a different base, doesn't he? Like, I could do sand. It looks kind of like sand, so I can definitely put him on a sandy shore. So maybe we'll do that. But I feel like Fisha definitely needs to be close to water, so yeah. I'll have to think about it. I don't know if I have the energy to do a real, like, big base for Fisha. Although I do like him a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure. So we'll have to think about it. But cool. All right. Tomorrow, folks. Tomorrow we will resume with the fish. And yeah, cool. We're getting around. I like a lot of the models we're working on now. So, and next time we come around to her, we'll just work more on the book and the bone. Maybe we'll work a bit on getting the silver kind of filled in so that I can get a feel. But I really like her so far. So we just got to get her filled in and then work on bringing everything up to the same level her skin is at right now. So thank you for tuning in. Quindy, what do we have later today? Is it beyond the... it's not Beyond the Kid. It's Josh, right? Do we have Crafty Creative today? Nothing today. All right. Well, you guys can all scamper off and have a lovely afternoon then. All right? Have a great one, and I will see you. Oh, that's Thursday. See, I'm just confused. I'm always confused. Just terribly confused. High five, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.